right, hello and welcome to Google Apps Unscripted. I'm Eric Kalita and this is my co-host Kalyan.
Hey everyone.
All right, and so this is our once a month approximately show that we do to answer your questions for Google Apps Script. So we're working on the developer relations team. So we're engineers that help people use AppScript, learn about its features, help you if you run into problems. And this is a great chance if you're using AppScript or just getting started to ask us questions, talk about something you're working on, or talk about any problems you have. And so we like to start off with a little bit of news and kind of like recent events in the world of AppScript. And so, yeah, we have a few different things that came out since our last episode, one of which is a new blog post. So this one is actually really cool. It's about the SETI Institute's kind of plans to name a new moon of Pluto. So they discovered some new moons, and I'm sure they had some sort of very boring numerical identifier, S/2001-13430.
That's a great name.
Yeah, it rolls off the tongue, right? Yeah. And so they wanted to kind of like open it up to the world and get some more interesting name suggestions. Did you submit any votes?
I actually didn't.
Yeah, okay, well, I think it could be too late now, but obviously there's a lot of people who are interested in this kind of stuff. There's just, people who are interested in general. There's people in the astronomy field, a lot of different opinions. So they wanted to create some way to kind of conduct a very large vote and also kind of like process the data. And I guess, using some kind of normal methods really didn't work out. And so they kind of used AppScript as a way to help collect, organize, and kind of collate the data, as well as weed out things that are like known funny names or bad names, or kind of get down to the meat of what are some really good suggestions.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so the blog post here goes a little bit into how it was done, why it was done, and they said the results are coming out soon. I still don't know if it's been announced yet. I'll have to double check. But at least at the time of this writing, I don't think they announced the name. But the final decision should be coming out soon, and I think AppScript, we've done our part to help make the galaxy a better place.
And I think it shows the simplicity and power of AppScript because, this looks like a very professional looking thing. Mm-hmm. It's not like here's this crappy form going in. Yeah. It looks really good. All the result sets are presented and collected nicely, and it's very easy to do.
Yeah, I think this is one of the places where AppScript really shines, which is you have some sort of tasks that you need to do, but it's not permanent, right? It's kind of a one-time, one-off thing. You're not going to go hire a company to build you a complex piece of software that does your job, and you want to do something better than just send us an email to this email address, right? Because who wants to deal with that? So it's right in that sweet spot of lightweight but still powerful and still getting your job accomplished in a much more efficient way. So do take a look, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Another piece of news is coming up directly after this broadcast. Arun Nagarajan, one of our colleagues, he's over in London right now, and he's going to be doing another AppScript Google Developers Live episode called Script It with AdSense. So it's possible to make requests to AdSense API in AppScript, and you can do some pretty neat things. And so he's going to be sitting down with Nick Johnston, one of our other engineers here at Google, and kind of showing off some of the cool things you can do. The scripted series has been really phenomenal. I know he did one recently on Android.
Yeah, that one's really popular now.
Yeah, that one blew up.
I think it's already up to over 5,000 views, so check that out. I think there's a lot of good information in that one. More of like how to very quickly get a proof of concept going. Someone posted as a comment that they wanted to have a something to keep track of their characters on a Dungeons and Dragons simulator, and they're like, "This is perfect for me because it doesn't require a whole lot of back end and setting all that in infrastructure up.
Right,
they can get going really quickly."
Yeah. Arun is known for pulling off some really awesome demos during these, and I think the killer one there was having a spreadsheet that when you update it, live push the changes to an Android app.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty awesome, and I think you can expect just as high quality demos today in his AdSense Scripted episode. So do check that out directly after this, starting at noon Eastern time. All right, great. Let's go with some release notes.
Yeah.
All right.
There's some good stuff.
So if you're not aware, we publish releases kind of like somewhat on a weekly basis, and we capture some notes about what's changed and what's been fixed, what new features are there. So let's get it started. What do we have on April 1st, Kalyan?
Let's see. April 1st, we fixed a bunch of issues. Well, first I'll talk about the new feature that we added. We added new methods for sheet.hideSheet is sheet hidden and show sheet. So basically, if you do have a sheet object that you've gotten from your spreadsheet, you can actually do operations like hide or see what the status is and control the visibility of the individual sheets.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I know a lot of people use, like when they have AppScript, they like to have like a configuration sheet or maybe a sheet that like stores some data, but they don't want people mucking around with it.
Right.
And so this allows you to programmatically, create a sheet and then hide it so that your script can bank on that, knowing that it's probably not going to be changed by the end user accidentally.
Right, and it also eliminates that extra human step of going in and then hiding after your script runs through and sets up the spreadsheet.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Cool. Let's see. First fix, scripts that rely on deleted libraries now display a clear error message. So this one, previously we had a cryptic server, there has been an error, a server error message. And so, that doesn't tell you anything of what the problem is. The problem is that the script was calling into a library that wasn't there anymore. And so we fixed it so that now it says, hey, your library is deleted.
That's great. And I know the next one here was a big issue for some people, which is that the script gallery would sometimes return you an error when you installed. And I think it actually still installed correctly in those cases.
Yeah, that was another instance where the server error was displayed. So people would oftentimes refresh the page to reinstall the script. But the original one did eventually get installed, so they would have 2 copies.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of strange interactions with that. So we apologize if you had a lot of users complaining about problems with this, but those concerns should be alleviated now.
Cool, that's great.
Fix. Let's see. Event parameter for spreadsheet on-edit functions now reports the affected range correctly in a variety of situations where range was previously incorrect. So this is kind of wordy, but basically what it was is that the event parameter, we often call it E. It gives you the range of the on-edit, and oftentimes that range was just the top left cell, or it was some incorrect value that didn't correspond to the actual edited range.
Yeah.
And it wasn't uniform. Oftentimes it was giving you the right answer, but not all the time. So now it should be working uniformly. Every time you call e.range or whatever, the event parameter.range, you will get the actual on-edit.
Yeah, I think this is a good case where, there are a lot of edge cases when it comes to some of the functionality that's in AppScript, because the Google Sheets provides so many different ways to paste, so many different combinations. I remember we were testing, well, what if you take 2 rows and paste it into a range of 4 rows?
Right.
And so I think, although we strive for perfection, there's probably going to be these little tiny inconsistencies that crop up from time to time that are important to us, and we do know it creates frustration when you have something that works 95% of the time, and then in that rare case, it doesn't work quite right. So do report those to us via the issue tracker. We'll hopefully get them into these same release notes in the near future as fixed. And then April 8th, we did some more exciting things. The first one here, I know something that you've looked a lot into, which is the document service.
Yeah, so the document service, I don't know how many of you have used it previously, but it can be a little complicated. There's a lot of methods there. Unfortunately, when you're trying to programmatically create a document, you do need a lot of these methods, and it can't be a simple, clean interface like some of our other beans are, but there were areas where there was a lot of extra stuff that you didn't need. And one great example was all of these .asSomething methods, which is basically if you have an object and it's like a generic object and you want to convert it into the exact type of the object, then the intention was you would do generic object dot as paragraph or as text or whatever to get a subclass. And a lot of those times we were having these for things that didn't make sense. So like paragraph dot as body element or something, so that didn't need to be there, so we got rid of a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense in the case where you say, get me all of the elements in this document, or search for some text and tell me what element you found it in. Where you have an element, but you don't know what it is, so you look at the type, and then you want to get the rest of your autocomplete, and so you do .as the real type, and then keep going from there. But once you know that it's a paragraph, you're probably not going to want to try to transform it into an image. It's just not going to work. As image didn't make sense. So this was part of our cleanup process. We're looking at doing even more cleanup in this space, but this was kind of like our first step, kind of just pare down, because we know that when you do like a dot and you get an autocomplete that's 10 miles long, it makes programming that much harder, because you're like, oh, where do I even start to find my function?
And you're going to continue seeing changes on this in the next couple of weeks. We have pending changes that are submitted. They're just waiting to be rolled out, and then we're going to have it be a nice, clean, efficient bean after a couple of weeks.
That's great. And the next one here is just kind of a little bit of extra gloss on what we do, which is we put some timestamps in the log output. So you can log to our log using logger.log, which is saying the word log a lot in one sentence. But so you can just take any value you want, a variable, a string, some numbers you have, stick it into a log, so that after you run, you can see what things were. It helps you do debugging. It helps you figure out if your script is running as it should. And so we've added just the ability to we automatically now add timestamps to that log so that you can kind of see the progress and see, wait, is this the most recent run, or did I not run it correctly, or more of that information.
Yeah. And
then a couple other bug fixes. So these ones are about triggers and about charts. I think you can click into the issues if you actually want more details. They're kind of just some small issues that we ran across, and we'll keep logging. We try to be complete. We want to make sure that every time we close a bug, it gets logged in the release notes. Occasionally we'll miss some, but for completeness sake, you'll usually find most of them in here.
Yep. And just a quick note: the timestamp feature. If someone was relying on the output of the log to look a certain way, it's kind of, you should try to make your scripts in such a way that sort of thing won't break them. But if that is the case, then there's definitely ways to strip out that timestamp portion and just return to the log output. Just using regular expressions, if you know that, just pass that into a string formatting type thing, and then you can get out the original text.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a larger problem, which is that when something has always worked a certain way, sometimes you want to add a new feature, you want to add a new capability, but then what if someone relied on it being that exact specific way that it was in the past?
It's kind of a hard line to walk.
Yeah, it is. We want to make sure that we continue to make progress and to enhance the features of AppScript, but we also understand that we don't want to have something that previously worked all of a sudden stop working because of a change. So we're trying to ride that balance, and if you have more feedback about a specific change, always do reach out to us. We are very conscious of that.
Yep.
All right. I think that brings us to the question and answer portion of the show. So we have some folks on the live Hangout. Let's go there first and see if anybody has any questions. Hello and welcome to Google Apps Unscripted.
Yeah. Thank you. I have a question.
Sure, go ahead. It's Harry, right?
Yeah, right.
Hey.
Harry Oostveen from the Netherlands. I'm working on a script, I have a script moving messages from Gmail to Evernote, and I tried to catch errors that the users can't use anyway, like server it cannot be reached. And recently, I think you mentioned it, it also gives errors if a library cannot be found or is not reachable. Is there a way to catch those errors to avoid that people get emails about it?
Yes.
You should be able to, just put that in a try catch, right?
So I think
but there's no line number. Usually, if there's an error, it gives a line number. Okay, there I should try and catch it. But for this one, there's no line number.
Yeah.
You as a programmer, though, when you're making the call to the library that's missing. Yeah. So if you do wrap that.
Well, it could be.
Is it not checked before?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah, if perhaps when the script is first loaded, when it's trying to load it for the first time to begin execution, I wonder if that point if it's actually checking the library. I mean, I guess I always had assumed that when this kind of weird like library inaccessibility was kind of more of an edge case, not like a normal thing people could run into. Is it something that you're finding cropping up a lot?
I noticed it popped up a few times in the past days.
I see.
And is it that the library was deleted in each case, or there was a temporary transient?
No, it's a script that's running every quarter of an hour. And usually gets once every couple of days. It can't find it, so probably some server or connection error.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess the first step usually is like when we have an error, the first time that it pops up, it's usually that unknown script error. And we're like, okay, well, that's not helpful. So we try to categorize it, display a good error message, but then that helps us figure out how often it's occurring and helps people give us more information. So I think now that we have a good error message, you can help us by telling us that you're getting these errors on a regular basis, even though the script hasn't changed permissions and it's still available. And then we can kind of dig into the fact about why is it that it's popping up when it shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's not regular. It's incidental.
Yeah.
Right. If you're seeing that, then please open an issue with your script and the library's key, and then we'll dig into those specific instances and see why they're being flaky in this case.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Anyone else on the Hangout want to come in? All right.
Feel free to join in when you have a question. If not, I think we have a Google moderator. So if you're watching on YouTube and you don't feel like joining the Hangout or don't have a webcam and mic, on our developers.google.com page for this event, you can go in there and there's a link to our Google moderator where you can then enter your questions.
Yep. Let's see. We have a couple of questions on there now. So let's take this top question here. Any timeline on when interactive Google Maps will be part of the APIs? So besides the static maps class.
Gotcha. So one of our services in AppScript is the map service, which provides a bunch of different mapping related features, but one of them is the ability to generate what we call static maps. So these are image maps. They're not draggable, they're not clickable or resizable. They're just an image. It's useful when you want to send it in an email or embed it into a doc, but it doesn't give you the full power of the full Maps API that you would see in if you just did it on the web. So it is something that the team has been looking into. Unfortunately, I can't give you an exact timeline. Obviously, timelines in general are hard to do in software development, and we don't want to get your hopes up unnecessarily. Do continue to ask us about it. The more information you can provide about how it's important to you, the more we can take that information, give it to the actual product and engineering teams, and get them to take more action on it. But do thank you for checking in. All right. I think we have some other questions on here too. So another one here directed specifically at me, which is pretty cool. Says that I'm the owner of issue 917 on the issue tracker, which is about getting an array of name ranges. Is there any progress on that? And apparently some other issues that are related. So this is a good point. I think it is possible today to get a named range.
Yeah, you can do.
If you know the name.
Get range by name, pass in the string of the name.
Right, but there's no way for you to discover, a la the sidebar that appears in the UI, what all the name ranges are that have been defined.
Right.
I do not know specifically about that specific issue or about where they are, if they're planning on it, but I'll revisit that again and talk to them and see if there's any progress, and then we'll update you again on that issue.
Cool.
And feel free to actually write a little message in the issue tracker there, and that gets into my email and I take a look at those. Great. What else do we have, Kalyan?
Let's see. Will it be possible to use chart service from HTML service? For instance, use GeoChart services. At the moment, Caja prevents me from using something like this.
Yeah, so this is actually kind of along the same lines as the maps, right?
Yeah, so you want the dynamic functionality of the chart service, where we do have a charts bean, and it outputs a pre-populated graph, but then if you, and you could add filters to it, so it is a little bit dynamic.
A little bit dynamic, yeah.
In a sense, but it doesn't have, like you can roll over and see fancy things. You can have the pie chart that comes up.
I know that the visualization APIs have a ton of options.
Right.
Ton of options.
And different chart types as well.
Yeah.
The GeoChart.
It's true. I think that's the chart we don't support in the chart service today. So yeah, I think we want to allow people to use kind of like the full Google developer stack in AppScript as much as possible. With Caja, there are some limitations today where Caja is very, very strict. That's our sanitization agent for HTML service. Very strict about what kind of JavaScript you can use, and I think some of this JavaScript doesn't quite conform correctly today, and we're working with all those teams, and we're working with the Caja team to kind of help make this story a lot better. So something we're actively looking into.
Yeah, so this falls into a larger class of questions, as you mentioned, on security and using Caja for sanitization. And yeah, we're definitely looking into that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, no news today about what you could do, but it is something that we're aware of. All right, let's just check in on the Hangout again, since I know we got some people on there. Any other questions that have popped up? Thoughts? Cool projects you're working on? No?
No.
Oh.
If nobody says.
Sure, go ahead, Harry.
I had another issue that I popped into. I'm in my office we try to make clear what groups we have within Google Apps and what are the members, and we have organized it a bit with groups and subgroups. And on the web interface, if you look at the groups, you can see the members, and also the groups that are member of another group are shown.
Okay.
But if you go to to use the same function, get users in Google Apps Script, you only get users, but not the groups that are member of the group.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find a way to get those groups.
Yeah, I believe that is a limitation of you're probably using the Groups app.
So this is not the domain group.
Yeah, because there's two different ways to access groups in Google Apps Script. One is with the domain services, and one is with the group services. The domain services, you need to be a domain admin, and it allows you to access your domains groups, and it gives you kind of a more complete set of information. But
okay.
Yeah, so if you're a domain admin and if these are domain groups, that could be an interesting thing to look into, because I think instead of giving you user objects that correspond to users, like the Groups app does, it gives you a list of email addresses that could be another group or it could be an individual.
And you actually recursively drill into that. That's one of the recent issues that we fixed,
where
there was a problem when you recursively said, is this email a group or a user? And then go into it, is this sub list of emails a user or a group? But we fixed that, and you could enumerate each email, and if that email is an expansion for more email addresses, if it's a group, then you can enumerate all of those until you have all of the user list, if you are a domain admin.
Yeah, so it's a domain service that they have to explore further.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, but you did point out that there's a limitation of the Groups app, which is the one for accessing all Google Groups, that it only returns concrete individuals, not groups that are then members of that group.
Right.
Great.
Thank you. That's helpful.
No problem. All right. Anybody else want to hang out? Feel free to chime in, and we'll just keep rolling with the moderator for now. So the next one here is. So.
Someone on the Hangout?
Do we have a question on the Hangout? We do. Hey.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can't hear you. Oh, sorry. We're getting some sign language though.
One second.
Oh, he was pointing to the chat. Oh, I see.
Oh, there's some chat questions.
There's some chat questions, yeah. Unfortunately, we can't get the chat here in the room, only in our studio. So we'll have our producer relay some of the chat questions to us.
And we'll relay that to everyone else.
Yes, we will work on enabling better chat in the future.
But we can read the chat.
Oh, that's right. We use Harry as
it's a bit too long to read it for you.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Harry, can you do us a favor and summarize the chat question?
There's a lot of code in it.
Oh, okay.
I see. Yeah,
I have to scroll up. I have an app script that lets users insert a link to a Google Drive file, but why is the padding around the select panel so big? Setting the width and height doesn't seem to alter anything. Unless I display browser.message box, then the panel stays open. And if I click cancel, the panel stays open. The code is, and I'm not going to read that.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously, whenever there's a question that involves us looking at code or going over something or trying it out, it's probably a better way for us to handle that question on the issue tracker. And, obviously, here in a studio, we're not at our best for debugging code on the spot. So, do open an issue tracker item if there isn't one, and if there is one,
if there is an issue that you've determined with AppScript. Otherwise, on Stack Overflow, it's another great place to answer.
A perfectly good point. If you're trying to figure out how to do something, Stack Overflow. If you found an actual problem in AppScript, issue tracker.
Yep.
Excellent point, Kalyan. So unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the exact problem that was described, but we can definitely take a look at it once it's either on one of those two forums.
Yeah. Let's see. We got about 5 minutes here.
Yeah, we've got a couple minutes left, and we got to have a couple other questions on the moderator. So one was menu items acting as anchors for a redirect, similar to the way that in Sheets, if you click on some menu items, it pops open a help page or redirects you to a help page. I think we found out that that's not going to be able to be possible.
Yeah, I think, you can't directly say, menu item dot redirect something. We don't have that functionality, but alternative could be you can if it's a simple help page, then you can create it as an HTML service page and then show that whenever someone clicks the menu.
Yeah. So you cannot redirect, like when you're in a spreadsheet and you have a menu item, you can't redirect that whole tab or that whole window, right? You can pop up a dialog and then show your own content in that dialog. And one of the things you can do in that dialog is show an anchor that someone could click that could then open a new tab where they can then see some external content. So there are some options. It's probably not exactly what you were looking for, but unfortunately that's what we have today. They're just usability and security concerns when a script can redirect a user without them really being aware of it. So that's why it's not possible. Yeah.
Let's see. The last question that we have on the moderator is: can you add a working example of how to use the Gmail attachment class in combination with getSize method? We just revamped a lot of our reference documentation and added a lot of sample code where there wasn't any before. So I'm not particularly familiar with this Gmail attachment class, but if there isn't a code sample there, then we'll definitely look at adding that.
I remember when getSize was added, and it had something to do with it that sometimes people just wanted to know the size of their attachment without actually fetching the content. And so as a way to be more efficient on our side, rather than have you download all the bytes and then count them, we provided a getSize method that just tells you the number. And it's a little bit more efficient on everybody. So that's what getSize does. I don't know if there's anything specifically hard or difficult about using it. It should just work as if it was any other part of like any other part of AppScript. But if you do run into an issue, Stack Overflow would be a good place to ask.
Yeah.
And I think there's one more that just phased in as we were talking, which is about transferring the ownership of a file from AppScript to another user. Do not think that is possible today. So we have the docs list service that allows you to access things in your Google Drive, but I don't believe it allows for determining or setting the owner. Am I right on that?
I think so. I think you are.
Yeah, well, that would be the place where it would be, and I do not believe it's one of the features there. We do know that ownership transfer is a big thing, especially within organizations where employees leave and you want to make sure that their documents don't all disappear. I know there are ways built into the Google Apps for Business administrative paddles that allow you to do various, transfer all the ownership for all this user's documents after when you're disabling their account. So if it's that use case, there are some kind of product features that'll help you. In AppScript, I don't think that's a possibility today, though. All right, well, I think we're just about out of time. Well, we want to make sure we leave time for you guys to get over to our next Google Developer Live episode hosted by Arun in London about Script It with AdSense. So head on over. You can find that link to that broadcast on Google developers.google.com/live,
right.
And it should be the first one there.
And it's the next live event upcoming on the Google Developers channel on YouTube as well.
Awesome. So that's it for us today. Thank you everyone who joined live. Thanks for the questions on the moderator. And we'll see you again next month for another episode.
See you.
Bye-bye.